Welcome to Small Arms Solutions. Today we're going to be talking about the SIG Gen 2 516 patrol rifle. This is a rifle I'm quite fond of. It's probably one of the premier external piston rifles. There's some history that goes on behind this one that I'm sure you guys are not aware of that I think you're going to find very, very interesting. So before we really get into the details of the rifle, I want to talk a little bit about where this rifle came from. Believe it or not, this has lineage with the HK416. One of the gentlemen who worked on the HK416's name was Robert Hurt. He was one of the primary engineers on that project. After he completed the work on the HK416, he went over to work for SIG. There he teamed up with a gentleman named Chris Royce. And both of them were charged with making a HK416 type rifle that was improved. They wanted to have their own piston rifle, but they wanted one that was better than the HK416. So what better way to do that is to have one of the guys who actually developed it, who knew of the rifle's shortcomings, knew of ways to improve it, and then going to a company like SIG, who already had a well-established engineer such as Chris Royce, who were ready to take on the task of making a rifle that was that much better. So some of the issues that were addressed with the development of this rifle to improve upon the HK416 was first, this one was made lighter. This is probably about a pound or so lighter. Another issue that was found with the HK416 is it vented as gas from the front of the gas valve. Now that caused an issue with flash. Low-level light, you would see a flash that would come outside of the rifle in front of the muzzle, which is very distracting, and it also enabled people to see where you were at. So when they developed this rifle, they moved that into the bottom of the handguard so it would disperse that so you would not see that flash nearly as much. One of the issues it also corrected was the fact that if you're familiar with the HK416's firing pin safety, which quite frankly I've never seen on any small arm in my career, which was due to such a high rate of fire on the bolt velocity that you were having slam fires with it, they were able to completely get rid of that on the SIG Model 516. By adjusting the weights of the buffers, they were able to give you a little bit better recoil, for as far as less recoil and more reliable. If you were to look at the weight of the buffer on the HK416, it was 140 grams. And if you look at the SIG 516, it's 130 grams. Both rifles use a tungsten powder type buffer assembly in them. Now, overall, one of the biggest problems with the HK was its rate of fire. It was an extremely high rate of fire. So SIG, when they designed this one, they slowed the whole system down, which made it more reliable and more durable than the HK416. The HK416 is very good for a while, but because you get that high rate of fire, you're wearing your parts out at a much quicker pace. So by slowing the system down, you are causing a lot less wear in the system, increasing its longevity. And another really big thing that SIG did was the HK416, 716, pretty much all of the components on it are proprietary. All those components you would have to get from HK directly. Now, even parts as simple as the buttstock, you cannot put a standard buttstock on a HK416 or a HK716. So what SIG did was they made everything down to the interchangeable level. Your lower receiver, all your components were made interchangeable with the standard 5.56 AR-15, as well as the upper receiver. Another really big part of the receivers that was changed was the height of the 1913 rail. The height of the rail on the HK416 is higher than what you see right here. Your rail sits up higher on the upper receiver, which puts the scope a little bit more uncomfortably higher. Where the rail you have on the SIG 516 is the exact same as an AR-15, so you're on the same sight plane as you would be with any AR-15 or M4 type rifle. By making the changes to the barrel and to the system itself, you were able to have a higher cook-off rate with the SIG 516, which means this will last longer before a round will cook off than the HK416. Now, that's some information that many of you are not aware of, but by having the engineer coming over from H&K, who knew what the shortcomings were, I mean, there's no perfect rifle. You know, you're basically taking a system that does work, and you're improving upon it. And there's one more iteration of this, which those two same gentlemen worked on over at Caracal. So both Robert and Chris Royce moved over to Caracal to make a rifle that they thought was even better than this one. But there's a direct lineage from the HK416 to the SIG 516, then we go to the Caracal 816. But this rifle was a direct descendant of the HK416 as far as making a rifle even better. SIG set out to do that, and I do believe they do. I don't think a lot of people give the SIG 516 the credit that it's deserving, because they don't really know where that it came from. And having such prestigious designers with the goals that were set forth, this is an excellent rifle. You know, it's not cheap. You're looking at a retail price of $1,888. So you do pay for it, but it's still that much cheaper, a lot cheaper than the HK416 overall. Now, the rifle we have here is the Gen 2. The Gen 2 is different from the Gen 1 in a couple of areas. First off being its weight. The weight was decreased in the Gen 2. Another thing, you had a bayonet lug that was on the Gen 1 as well. But there were some minor tweaks that were made on this thing, some different changes in stock. There's been a different evolution of pistol grips and different kinds of stocks to what we have right now. Now, I did add a couple things to this rifle. But first I want to point out the fact that what you see here is a complete rifle solution offered by SIG. You have a SIG rifle, you have a SIG optic. This happens to be the Tango 6, which was recently adopted as a DMR optic for the U.S. military. And we also have SIG ammunition. We have a 77 grain open tip match and a 60 grain solid copper bullet for hunting. They also have a sound suppressor, but unfortunately I don't have one. But by SIG acquiring different companies, they are now able to offer their customer an entire weapon system, which means we're going to offer you a rifle, we're going to offer you an optic, we're going to offer you ammunition, and we're going to offer you a suppressor. So they can give you a one-shop stop for an entire weapon system. This optic was just announced to be a DMR optic. This is an excellent rifle. It's a 1 power to 6 power. You have a nice lever on here for changing your power. You have illuminated reticle, as well as fully adjustable turrets. We have it on a Geisley mount also. I think Geisley makes probably some of the best mounts in the industry. So it does have that on it. As of 2017, the SIG rifles no longer come with backup sights, or do they come with slings. So that was one of the things they did change as well. There was reasons for that because people have their own ideas of what they want for backup sights and slings. It's impossible to make everybody happy. So, SIG delivers them with these sights. Someone's going to say, oh, these are too heavy, or we don't like these, so we're going to change them. So it saves you, the money of having to go and replace those components. But I had requested the optics and the sling for this rifle, but it does not come with it. I want to put that out right now. So we're going to take a look at this rifle from back to front and show some of the different components. We have an overall length of 33.5 inches extended, and with a sock collapse we have 33.3 inches. Now we have a BCM SOT mod stock in the back here, which we have 2 QD points for a sling adapter. We have a 6-position receiver extension. We have an H2 buffer, and if you notice we have QD points in the back of the lower receiver. Lower receivers are both forged in 775 T6 aircraft grade aluminum. And again, this is a feature I do like, is having the integrated QD points. We have a standard magazine release, we have an injection port cover, and we do have a forward assist. Now, we also have on the left side, as you see, we have an ambidextrous magazine release. We also have an ambidextrous safety, and this safety, the way this is designed, this one's not going to come off. There's been reports with some of the M4A1 ambidextrous safeties where the screws are coming loose and they're coming off. That will not happen with the SIG. Now, the pistol grip we have on here is a second generation. They had one that was a little more of a curve down to it. I prefer this one much, much better. We have a compartment in the bottom here as well. We have an oversized trigger guard for wearing gloves. The trigger in here is a standard mil-spec trigger. This one is probably about 6.5 pounds, if I recall from measuring it. It's a standard mil-spec, which you would want on a rifle of this type. Getting into the handguard, we have a quad mil-standard 1913 handguard. I'm sure you're going to see these coming out with the M-LOK as well. I prefer the standard mil-standard 1913 rails. That's just me, but I guess I'm behind times. Now you also notice I have the Mansa rail protectors on here. This will get hot. Any of these aluminum handguards will get hot by putting the Manta protectors on here. Your hand is protected from all that. We do have 2 QD detachment points here and 2 additional ones in the front. This is a free-floating handguard. This is also a SIG proprietary handguard. The barrel we have is a 16-inch cold hammer forged barrel, and this is QPQ coated. It's a 1-turn and 7-inch twist with a standard A2 type compensator. And what we're going to do now is go over some of the internal parts. Looking at the charging handle, we have an ambidextrous charging handle. Excellent quality, very well made. Looking at the bolt carrier group, we have a lightweight bolt carrier group. It's all one piece. As you can see, the tombstone is all machine part of the bolt carrier. We have a standard AR-15 M16 style bolt, unlike the HK-416 where this is all proprietary. Also, it's oversized on the HK as well, needlessly oversized. It uses a standard cam pin, standard firing pin retaining pin, but that is it is all mil spec with the exception of the carrier itself. Now, to take a look at the gas system, we go to the front here. We have 3 positions. We have a standard setting, we have a suppressed setting, and we have an adverse condition setting. So that enables you to have it under different conditions. Now to adjust, you push in this plunger and you can rotate to different positions. Now, when the time comes that you get so much fouling in here where you can no longer do it by hand, you take a cartridge, place it in like so, push the button in, and you can adjust it as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove the gas system so you can take a look at it. We rotate all the way. Pull that gas system right out. As you can see, we have the gas regulator right here, and you can see the 3 holes, all different sizes. They go from smaller to larger. So this is your gas regulator. Here we have the operating rod. You can see short stroke tappet. And you can also notice, if you see on here, that there are gas rings on here. Now, this is a major benefit. Unlike a gun like an AK, which you have to have overgassed because you have gas that will go past the piston because there's a lot of play in between the piston and the gas tube. So you have to have additional gas in there, so even with that loss, it will still knock it back. By having the gas rings and sealing that off, you can use a significantly less amount of gas. So you can make your gas system extremely efficient. And that's what this enables you to do. You do have a return spring as well, and you do have a spacer in here too that puts it into position. But again, we have a short stroke tappet system. This is a part that you definitely want to keep clean. Not unlike the DI system or the direct gas system, or what I like to refer to as internal piston system, you have to keep an external piston just as clean because all your gas and all your carbon fouling is going to be coming into this area right in here. So this does need to be maintained. As contrary to popular belief, you do have to maintain external piston guns. This is what's referred to as a short stroke tappet because you have a separate operating rod versus the separate bolt carrier. If this was to be a long stroke tappet, the operating rod would be attached to it, and it'll be one piece. But since you have 2 separate units, we have a short stroke tappet. Reassembly is very simple. You insert your gas valve right on. So for reassembly, we want to make sure we have this in the flat with the flat position down. We insert, push in the plunger, and for the normal position, we want to have that in a direct vertical position. And that's all there is to the gas system. The rifle is very easily maintained, as you can see, just like any other M16 type rifle. As far as the rifle is concerned, it is, as we said, is completely interchangeable. And I'm actually planning on keeping this rifle. I'm actually very, very, very fond of it. And the first thing I'm going to be doing is replacing this trigger with a Geisley trigger. I want to go over a little bit more of the buffer system on this thing as well. The way this thing comes from the factory, it comes with an H buffer. Now, the military version, those are the ones that come with the tungsten powder buffers. And let me sort of explain why. Due to the fact this is semi-automatic only, the bolt carrier bounce is not an issue. Because if you do have bolt carrier bounce, it's not going to affect anything. Now, if you were to fire this thing on fully automatic, you would have issues with carrier bounce. So the cost of a tungsten powder buffer is significantly more than a standard slug buffer, which is what we have here. Now, the weight would probably be equivalent to more of an H2 or so with the tungsten powder weights in there, but due to the additional cost, I mean, that would probably add an extra $50 to $75 to this rifle to put that tungsten powder buffer in there, and it's not needed. So this is the reason why you have an H buffer in here. I've also seen H2 buffers come in these things as well, but normally it's an H. But if you were to have a selective fire version, then you would have the tungsten powder buffer in there. For as far as variations of this rifle, if you so choose, you can get these in the flat dark earth finish if you so choose. I've just never gotten into the bandwagon for being flat dark earth. I tend to really like the just the standard old black rifle. For as far as optics is concerned, the SIG optics is really an incredible line. Pretty much anything that you would want to do from red dot to more of a DMR type or to a longer range, extremely long range optic, you can go that way. I've been using these optics quite a bit over the last couple of years. In fact, if you look at my videos, you'll see quite a few of them that use these optics because they are excellent optics, excellent quality. They're clear. I do like having the ability to light lit up reticle. That's another excellent benefit. The SIG ammunition, I've been using quite a bit of that over the last couple of years as well. For as far as quality, it is excellent. Reliability, I've never had any kind of misfires with it. And it's accurate. Some of the ammunition maybe is a little bit lower in velocity. For instance, like the 6.5 Creedmoor is a little bit lower in velocity. But the 77 grain OTM, which is the one that I use the most of on many different rifles, is just a little bit less for as far as velocity than the Mark II 6.2. But for as far as accuracy, it's accurate as can be. These rifles all come with the Lancer L5 magazines, Advanced Warfighter magazines, the clear ones. So when you buy one of these rifles now, you're going to be receiving it with one of these magazines. Another excellent magazine for as durability is concerned. The top 2 magazines in the industry, for as far as I'm concerned, is Magpul Gen 3s and these. Also, if you were to have this in 300 blackout, you'd be able to use that magazine for 300 blackout as well, even though Lancer does also offer a 300 blackout magazine. But from my experience, I've used these quite a bit with 300 blackout, both supersonic and subsonic, and they work excellent. From my understanding, the reason for the change to the 300 blackout specific magazine from Lancer was due to the heavy front end of the subsonic ammunition. Another thing I plan on doing with this thing in the near future is getting rid of this and putting on a silencer co flash suppressor so I can use my can on this. And using this thing suppressed will work excellent suppressed. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the sucker to the range and we're going to see how it shoots. The SIG 516 series is an excellent rifle. It's seen military use throughout the world in its selective fire variations in both short barrels, 14.5 inch and such. It's being submitted all over the world for as far as weapons trials for militaries all over the world. SIG is very involved with military contracts these days. It's not a cheap rifle, but you're not getting a cheap rifle. You do get what you pay for the most part. And in this case, the cost is very reasonable for as far as a rifle of this quality. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I'll try and get back to you. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, please subscribe, and even share. If y'all like what we're doing here, we appreciate you taking a look at our Patreon site and consider donating to our channel. We're self-funded at this point, and we could really use any assistance you could give us so we can continue bringing you these videos.